All right, so our final speaker for the day, before we have our panel, is an MSc student, Miss Marilyn Jaal from the Philippine Coast Guard. And she has really distinguished herself on the Philippine Coast Guard and has been assigned to various Philippine Coast Guard and Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources vessels patrolling within the Philippine maritime jurisdiction. She also received she was the first woman to receive the Philippine Coast Guard's coveted Command at Sea badge. So today she's actually going to be talking about implementation of the PSMA within the Philippines.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So first and foremost, I'm Marilyn Jaal from the Philippines, and as what Miss Caitlin said, I'm into the service of Philippine Coast Guard for 17 years now, and I am an MSc student here at Maritime World University and specializing in ocean sustainability, governance, and management, headed by our dear professor here, Professor Francis Nitt. And prior coming to Sweden, I was one of the female officers assigned aboard ship and commanded different PCG and B4 vessels. And I personally experienced apprehending illegal fishers together with the fishery law enforcers in the Philippines. This is one of the reasons why I was motivated to specialize in OSGM and focus my study in IUU fishing, particularly the preparation of government agencies in implementing the port state measure in the Philippines. And I presume that PSMA is timely and important because the Philippines is in the initial stage that framing the national laws, the capacity building, and in preparing for the implementation of the said agreement. Thus, I focus my study on how far is the Philippines in preparing for the implementation of port state measure since its accession in May of 2018. So I would also like to take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt gratitude to my supervisors, headed by Professor Schofield, which is not here, but Professor Francis Neat is here for guiding me in completing this dissertation. Thank you so much, sir. And of course, encouraging me to present this dissertation in this Cupfish seminar. And I also want to say that I am so lucky to be part of this activity. What only I can say is that I am not here as representative of the PCG or the Philippine Coast Guard. However, every knowledge I gain here will be echoed not only in the PCG, but I hope to be part in this project in the future, of course, in the Philippines. So this is the title of my dissertation, the implementation of the port state measure in the Philippines. The outline of my presentation is a little bit introduction. However, I will not go further into the introduction and what is PSMA and how it works, because most of our presenters a while ago was already discussed more deeper on the what is PSMA and what is IUU fishing is all about. So I want to focus on the conclusion and the recommendation of my study. Okay. So I just want to show you about the Philippines, those who doesn't yet came in the Philippines, but hopefully, especially Professor Nit, I would like to invite Professor Nit to visit the Philippines. So Philippines is located on the Southeast Asian archipelago between the Southeast Asia and the Pacific on the east side. And As you all know, the Philippines is an archipelago which comprises of 7,000 islands and with a coastline of 36,289 kilometers. And its marine waters included the EEZ comprises of 2,200,000 square kilometers. In the fishing industry, it employs 1.6 million people and bring in between 1.5 and 1.7% of the country's GDP. And as you can see on the slides, the recent IUU fishing estimates in the Philippines made by one of the authors, Bello, as of 2021, and it shows that it shows that as estimated through the survey and workshop report conducted by the Philippine Statistics Authority, the Philippines is losing 62 billion pesos or equivalent to 1.2 billion US dollars annually due to IUU fishing. So thus, it is one of the reasons why the Philippines ratified and becoming a member of the Fourth State Measure Agreement, which is, I've said a while ago that the Philippines exceeded the PSMA in May of 2018. Okay, so I will not go further in it. So how the PSMA works, Ma'am Alicia already discussed about it. And here, as you can see, as Ma'am Alicia also mentioned a while ago, that implementing the port state measure needs an interagency collaboration. So in the Philippines, we have 8 different departments involved in the implementation of port state measure. So the first, this is the lead agency, which is the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. We have the Coast Guard here, the Philippine Fisheries Development Authority, the Customs, Plant Industry, the Bureau of Immigration, Bureau of Quarantine, and Bureau of Animal Industry. So these are the 8 government agencies involved in the implementation of this port state measure in the Philippines. However, due to time constraints and as dissertation always have these limitations, so I focus my data gathering in these 3 areas. That's why it has some stars in here. So I focus my data gathering in these three bureaus wherein it is involved in the implementation of the Port State Measure Agreement. And since the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources is the lead agency and it is mandated by the Philippines as the and governed by the RA 10654, which is it is an act to prevent, deter, and eliminate IUU fishing in the Philippines. And the next one, the Philippine Fisheries Development Authority, it is a government-owned and managed organization that works directly in port facilities. And the Coast Guard, one of its mandate in coordination with the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources is to assist in enforcing fishing and other related laws within the Philippine maritime jurisdiction. Accordingly, the PCG shall help prevent and suppress the IUU fishing, violations of fishing regulations, unlawful harvesting of corals, and of course, the violation of other maritime laws that may occur within the maritime jurisdiction of the Philippines. So in this regard, the BFAR and the Coast Guard have the Memorandum of Agreement that improves and make more efficient and effective fishing and marine regulations, especially those that deal with the management, conservation, the preservation of the country's maritime environment, fisheries, and aquatic resources. And I've also focused my studies within these three agencies because they have the common mandates on fishing functions, fishery functions, as what I've said. And similarly, the number of responses is limited to the three entities due to the time constraints that I mentioned a while ago. And I conducted 17 online interviews from these government agencies, and they are working on the managerial and operational levels. So I have 17 interviews. And focusing on the conclusion, these are the conclusion wherein I found during the data gathering. And because actually there's a problem with industry, these three organization, because before being the lead agency, of course, they told or they answered me that, yes, we are technically prepared. And the PFDA also told that, yes, we are technically prepared because in the Philippines, we have already identified the designated ports wherein in the whole Philippines, we have 2 ports that we'll be using in the implementation of port state measure. However, these 4 conclusions were summarized based on the data gathered. So based on the results of the interview on the 17 respondents, the first one, since the PSMA is still in its infancy since its accession in 2018, it is a new government concern. Although the government acted immediately after its accession, however, due to unknown conditions like the COVID-19 pandemic, the change of administration, because for your information, the Philippines is just conducted the votation of the head of state just this year. So one of the reasons is the change of administration that delays the government readiness in implementing the port state measure. So therefore, the appreciate regulations, supervisions, and evaluation are essential for its long-term viability. In the same way, the research showed that various programs and initiatives must be improved to prepare the PSMA in strong collaboration with the national government agencies and the RFMOs are essential. For the Philippines to successfully implement the port state measure and contribute to global efforts to address the issue, there is an urgent need to foster good coordination and shared understanding among government institutions. As a research, it also shows that there is a need to put more on emphasis on developing each agency's capability and creating the necessary national law documents. It is, and despite the efforts and preparing the implementation of port state measure, more research is recommended on my research. And I hope not only the 3 agencies will be involved, but of course, with all the other agencies that was mentioned a while ago. And I hope also other stakeholders, including the non-government agencies, will be involved in the research to be conducted. And as a recommendation, the study's findings and conclusions have led to the following recommendations. So first, the capacity building was determined to have a modest level of preparedness. Thus, it is recommended that the government increase its organizational capacity, which include human resources and institutional capacities requirements in order to successfully implement the port state measure in the Philippines. And the second one, because the PSMA is a new concern in the Philippines, education and training for human resources with the necessary skills knowledge and competencies in executing the PSMA should be offered as part of the preparation stage. Thus, constant turnover of personnel receiving training should be avoided. However, proper turnover of duties must be considered. The PSMA requires leadership stability at this stage, and as well as the establishment of an environment for collaboration and cooperation among the government entities involved, knowledge management, and organizational learning. And number 3, the institutional capabilities emphasize the legal authority of the state to establish explicit instructions consistent with applicable domestic and international law. It includes the formulation of manual of operations, which is based on the PSMA provisions that establish implementation guidelines and protocols, as well as the SOPs, or the standard operating procedures, that outline the specific guidelines, instructions within the agencies involved in order to um, uh, for some actually, the creation of these legal documents would enhance cooperation, reduce the confusion of each agencies, and prevent duplication of roles and obligations among agencies, which will be implementing the port state measure. And I hope that will be all with my dissertation, and thank you for your attention.
Great, thank you so much, Marilyn. It was a very interesting look into the challenges in implementing the Port State Measures Agreement in certain countries and the opportunities available.